Welcome back to this week's edition of the Business of Sports, Playmakers Beyond the Competition. I am always pleased to join Chris Roseman. Chris, how you doing today?
Doing great, getting ready for some warmer temperatures. College sports is right around the corner. Actually started, I believe, last night. Some intercollegiate activity happened last night as I checked my ESPN Plus app. But yeah, it's that time of year again.
So we are inside of 2 weeks before Mizzou's opener on that Thursday night at the end of August. Chris, you're kind of on the inside up there. Tell everybody what it's like going on. There is so many good things going on at Mizzou, and the North End Zone season opener. Talk about what's going on up there and the excitement.
The buzz is off the charts. I mean, what's going on in Columbia at Mizzou. Across, with football leading the way, of course, but, we have 18 sports up there, and it's just amazing what's going on at Mizzou under the leadership of Laird Veach and curators and everyone else that's behind the success that's going on there. I've not seen the enrollment numbers yet for the kids that are showing up to school. They started reporting, I guess, in the last couple of weeks, actually, with what rush going on. But, the buzz, the enthusiasm, the excitement is crazy. We just got through parking last week, and we've never sold out of parking. We've always had parking spots. If you want to buy a parking spot, you can buy a parking spot. Well, there is no more parking to buy. We sold out of all the premium seat areas. So the suites and the hospitality areas, the club seats, those are all gone. You're looking at sellouts for at least 3 games right now. We're getting really close to selling out the home opener, but the enthusiasm for Mizzou athletics is really great for our flagship institution, really great for our state, really great for St. Louis and Kansas City and the Joplins and St. Joe's. It's just a really great time for Mizzou sports.
It really is. It's pretty incredible how sports can tie a community together, whether it be St. Louis, whether it be obviously statewide with Mizzou and obviously many other colleges around the country. It's a fun atmosphere, and fall is a special time.
Yeah, you've got the St. Louis connections there, right? With the football team, Kevin Coleman, of St. Mary's is going to be there, and some others that are going to, out of the St. Louis region are going to be playing for Mizzou this year. And what Drake's done up there and with his coaching staff is just really, really, really cool to see. And there's a great sense of pride, in Mizzou and how they represent, or how we represent the state. As we go out and play these, play in the SEC in the hardest conference out there. And it's just it's a great time to be a Tiger. That's for sure.
It definitely is. We had the pleasure this week to have Declan O'Neill of Gateway and World Wide Technology Raceway, and had a great conversation with him.
Good morning and welcome back. And this morning we are joined by Declan O'Neill, who I had the privilege of getting to meet and work with way back when. I think the first time we connected Declan was probably around the College Cup. That was one of those events that we worked with St. Louis University, Cheryl Levick, when she was the athletic director. You and Koshe Irby, I believe, were the days. And we got that event kind of late notice because the previous venue fell through, and we were able to get that event to come to St. Louis, and we didn't know the weather would be quite like that in December. We should have known better, but we didn't. And it was a pleasure working with you then. But since then, you've gone on to greatness. It's just been fun watching your career over the years. And now you are Vice President of Business Development for World Wide Technology Raceway. So, Declan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, College Cup days, man. That brings back memories of the Ice Bowl, I guess, or whatever they called it when all that happened. But it was a cold time, but definitely an experience and something we always remember.
Yeah, that was that event previewed, what the passion for soccer was in St. Louis back in 2006. I mean, we sold that event at 6,000 seats in probably a day. There were, people were just chomping at the bit to come see some great soccer. And it was funny because we had UCLA and Santa Barbara were in that event. They came from those warm climates and they were not ready for that show. And it was those two in the final. And it was something to behold. So, hey, Dak, just kind of get us, let us know who you are and kind of where you got your start, family, that kind of things. And we'll start there and just tell us a little about yourself this morning.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Again, thanks for having me on. I'll start, fun fact, both my parents are from Dublin, Ireland, and actually moved over to the U.S. The day after they got married. I was actually born in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but have now lived in the St. Louis area for nearly 40 years. So I consider myself a St. Louisan, and obviously where I grew up in St. Charles. I know everybody in Missouri went to know where you went to high school. I went to St. Charles West. And then stayed in town and went to St. Louis University, where I got my graduate and my MBA there as well. So currently live out in the Illinois side with my wife. I got 2 kids. My son Liam is 12. My daughter Emerson is 9, and they have the busiest schedules for kids that I can imagine. So it's a lot of fun chasing them around and doing all the fun travel stuff that they're involved in, from sports and dance and all that stuff. So, lived here now for, like I said, almost 40 years. So it's been a good ride.
No, you're almost a native. So yeah, enjoy those times. I miss them. Our daughter left the house. Our youngest left the house 2 years ago, and I miss those running from here to there and all those different activities. But we get to see her every once in a while. See our son as well. When you were grew up in St. Charles, was it always your goal to get into sports, or was it marketing? Was it, what were you thinking when you went to St. Louis University?
Yeah, so knew from a young age, I either wanted, obviously every young kid's dream is to play sports, either wanted to play or work in sports. So grew up playing a lot of basketball, a lot of baseball. Probably could have went and played a small D3 for baseball. That was the sport I was the best in. But ended up attending St. Louis University and kind of knew right then and there that, I wanted to figure out a way to work in sports. So as a freshman, went and walked to the athletic department and said, hey, I want to figure out a way to work here, and ended up becoming the student manager for the men's basketball team. So at that time, Charlie Spoonhauer, I remember those days. So worked with Spoon for about a year, and then on came Lorenzo, and stayed with him for, his career there. And that's kind of really how I got my start. Right when I graduated, I actually went and worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car for about a year, and then, came back to the university. Cochet, Cheryl hired me back to the university and started kind of from the ground up, started as event manager, and ran, kind of the 9 events that we had there at the university. So handled all the in-game promos, all the staffing, all the behind the scenes stuff, sometimes you don't see, and stayed there at SLU for 8 years and worked kind of my way up from event manager to director of marketing to assistant AD for what they call external operations, overseeing all the sponsorships and business partnerships. And during the time is when we built Shavitz Arena, which was a really fun project to kind of learn and do that from building an arena from the ground up and get that off the ground. So so it's that's kind of how I got my foot in the door, and it's kind of my trajectory of where I've been and where I'm at now.
So that was about the time. Was that about the time that Lorenzo Romar was coaching and SLU played Mizzou? Were you in part of those games? There was a
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think they played one here at the Dome when we had a floor. Then they played one in Columbia and one in it was at Enterprise or whatever it was called, Kiel back then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we played them. Yeah, played them 3 times. I think we lost all 3, maybe, or I don't know, maybe we won 1, but they were all good games. But definitely fun time. I distinctly remember going back to Mizzou and playing there in front of that crowd, and that was awesome. So. But yeah, good memories there. And Coach Romar was awesome. I loved him, and stayed in touch with him for quite a while. Actually, when he went back to Washington, I would go back in the summer times and kind of hang out with him and do some of his basketball camps and all that stuff. So it was definitely a fun time.
That'd be a fun series to bring back. St. Louis U and Mizzou would be a good one. What was it like? So you were there during the kind of the process of deciding and then the building of Chaffetz. What was that like, just being around that and the excitement around that? Obviously the first on-campus building.
Yeah, it was a really good experience to kind of learn, building obviously a brand new facility, a brand new arena, really being in the trenches of the design process. From my side, it was also like, how are we going to generate revenue? How are we going to get, sponsorships and how many suites do you want to build and how big should they be and where are we going to put all the signage and stuff like that. That was the stuff I was kind of really focused on along with Coach Shea. But learning that process and being involved with that from the beginning has really helped kind of what we've done here at the racetrack, as far as just looking at every angle of what you're doing and what you're building and what the future will be. It was a great experience, loved it, and the facility today is amazing. It's still, I think, one of the tops. They keep expanding it, keep making it better, but it was definitely a great process to be a part of.
Do you still get a charge when you walk into that building knowing that you were part of the creation?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I brag to my kids all the time, like, hey, I helped design that. See that sign up there? That was my idea, type of thing. So yeah, definitely I still get a charge. I still love to go to the games, but it's fun also just seeing some of the sponsors and stuff that I dealt with in the past that are still there supporting the Billikens and talking to them and kind of, walking through memory lane. So it's a lot of fun.
So, Doug, I mean, being in the college space when you were there, and that's a challenging space. In addition to, to building a 10,500 seat arena, and that came out, of the ground in whatever it was, 2005, opened in 2008. Like, you had other things going on. You had other sports you had to take care of. You oversaw probably some sports in there. Did you have any third parties kind of help you out on a contract type basis? Did you have any consultants? What did that organization look like? Just prepping for and getting ready for that building?
Yeah, we were pretty unique. We did not, right? So we had everything in house. Wow. So as myself and Coach Shea were really the ones handling the business part side of it, from the sponsorships, the ticketing. So we didn't have any agencies at that time helping us, strike any of these deals or manage any of that stuff, really. So soon after I left is when they started, I think they brought on whatever agency they have now to kind of help on the sponsorship sides and ticketing and all that. But yeah, it was all in-house done. Myself, Coach Shea, Cheryl, Janet, the whole team there was great. But yeah, it was we were pretty unique, I think, at that time because we didn't have any outside agencies or helping us.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing. I mean, it's like, like I see it all the time. There's a ton going on college campuses, and it's not just the events, it's the practices, it's the development meetings, it's, it's the donors, it's all kinds of stuff. And for you to be able to pull that off is pretty incredible. What was it like, competing, St. Louis is a city that's got the professional franchises. Back then we had the Rams, Blues and Cardinals, the three major franchises that you had to compete against. What was it like competing each day? And what was kind of your angle when you would go out and talk to sponsors?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And it's something I kind of deal with here at the track that has kind of built what we do. But, obviously being a very competitive market back then and now, when we're at SLU, and it's really you have to learn the differences that you can offer those partners and what maybe some of the professional franchises, can't do. Right. So I always try to work that angle. And a lot of it what came down to like accessibility and just doing things a little bit different than what they could. And I'd always go in and ask partners like, all right, I know you're a partner with Cardinals or the Rams or the Blues. Like, what is it you can't do with them that I can maybe do here, right, at SLU? And it's kind of the same thing I do here at the racetrack. So, here we're obviously a major entertainment facility, over 1,000 acres, a lot of different stuff we can do. And, building that arena back in SLU, that was always a question, like what is it you want to try to do here? How can I help accomplish a goal that you can't do with one of the others? And that was always an angle, because again, I was always going up against them. Obviously didn't have all the exposure and stuff like that, but I had to think differently of what I could provide that they couldn't provide. And, that, opens up the box a little bit when you're talking with partners and trying to do different things and trying to be creative. But it was always that angle of, hey, how can I help you accomplish this that, maybe they can't do?
Got it.
There really isn't, you've seen a St. Louis sports scene from a few different angles. It really is pretty incredible. I'm a lifelong St. Louis, and Chris too, and you for the most part, obviously. It is consistent. I mean, almost year after year, event after event, sport after sport. Any idea what kind of what that gets down to? Just the passion?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like just the fan base and the crowd,
just a great sports town.
It is. It really is a great sports town. You know, and you know what I've learned obviously is a very passionate fan base in certain areas, right? So you got your Cardinals fans, you got your Blues fans. You know, we have a lot of racing fans in the area. But overall, in general, it's a really good fan base that really does support each other. Like we do a lot of stuff with the Cardinals, we do a lot of stuff with the Blues, Battlehawks. You know, we try to work and help each other, attract each other's fan base as well. So you'll see us do a racing night, you know, at the Cardinals every year and do a lot of first pitches. We'll go set up in the tailgate area for Battlehawks games and stuff like that, and vice versa. You'll see them out here at the racetrack. I mean, Colton Parayko is probably one of the biggest race fans, and he's bringing all of his buddies and you know, walking around and doing stuff. You know, we got the Battlehawks guys out here in the Midway, you know, interacting with fans and stuff like that. But overall, in general, it's a very supportive community. It's a very passionate crowd. And, you know, St. Louis is known to put on great events. And, you know, that's one of the things we try to do here for our big events. It's make it a spectacle, right? And, you know, get people out here, whether you're a racing fan or not, you're going to walk away having a good time. So,
yeah, you never know where Colton Parayko is going to show up. And this does tie back to Chaffetz, is where he showed up. He came out, he wanted to come out to the gymnastics championships we had at Chaffetz in 2012. And it was hysterical seeing Colton Parayko hang out with the gymnasts, because Colton Parayko is like 6'6", and these kids are, you know, 5 foot maybe. But he's one of the most genuine guys, and just a great example of just the, you know, the connectivity that these professional athletes have to their communities. You know, from SLU, you there, you got Chaffetz off the ground and running. And then I think Anheuser-Busch came calling, and, you know, what was that transition like for you, and why did you make the jump, and what were those years like? Because it was a challenging time for AB, and where they were and how that looked.
Yeah, no, it's a fun story. So, you know, I think I did a really good job when I was selling sponsorships and sold it to AB. That, you know, they called me shortly after and said, "Hey, you want to come work for us?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So, you know, at that time, I've been with SLU, I think 8 or 9 years. You know, and kind of worked my way up to where I kind of wanted to be. And wanted to kind of challenge myself and get on the brand side. And obviously, what no better company than, you know, Anheuser-Busch, one of the best sports marketing companies you can join, right? So joined them in what was called their Busch Media Group, sports marketing group, and oversaw 42 teams across the U.S. So everywhere from Buffalo all the way out to California. I had a handful of, you know, 42 teams, professional teams, that basically oversaw the contracts, the negotiations, the assets that would go into those type of programs. And that was a lot of fun. I mean, it was, at that time, it was my dream job. It was, you know, you're traveling around to different sporting events, you're going to Super Bowls, you're going to World Series, all the fun stuff that, you know, you would want to do as a sports fan. And, you know, it was unfortunate that, you know, I was there for a couple of years, and then they did the big transition to, hey, we're going to move headquarters to New York. And, you know, at that time, I think I had my son, he was a year old, and just wasn't able to make that transition to New York. But, you know, the time I was there was a lot of fun, really learned a lot as far as brand marketing, brand activation, you know, what, you know, I was always selling to companies, right? But now I'm the one they're selling to, and, you know, what it is we look for in a partnership. You know, not everybody wants all the same stuff. And so that really helped me kind of understand on the other side of what to look for from a brand side and stuff like that. So a lot of fun, definitely a great company to work for. Still have a lot of contacts there, and talk to a lot of people, but it was a fun time. And that's how I ended up here at World Wide Technology Raceway. Was, you know, I did a little bit on the racing side with the Budweiser racing team, and got connected to Curtis, our owner, kind of through some of those connections in the racing world shortly after he bought the racetrack. And so it worked out well, as far as, you know, I wasn't able to move to New York at that time due to family, but I had another opportunity here with Curtis when he bought the racetrack, and kind of another, you know, Chaffetz Arena type of moment is facility that we need to build back up and you know, make it bigger and better. And that's it's been a good opportunity here for sure.
So what was the favorite event while you were at Anheuser-Busch? Was it the World? Did you do World Cups? What'd you do? What was your favorite?
Super Bowls for sure. I did 3 Super Bowls there. The one cool one was the one in New York that we went to. We actually stayed as a staff, we stayed on the cruise ship, the Bud Light hotels, what they had back in the day. And it was one of the cruise ships that they pulled up. Right. So that was probably one of the highlights there for that one particular, because the day after the Super Bowl is when it snowed in New York, and we were like, oh crap, how are we going to get out of town here and stuff like that, and everybody's freaking out. But that was definitely top of one. All-Star game, Derek Jeter's last All-Star game in Minnesota, I believe it was. I went to that one. That was a cool event we were part of. And then opening up Levi Stadium for the 49ers helped. That was one of my teams, helped kind of build that. We had a big Bud Light area out in the one of the end zones, and kind of going to that first game and seeing that thing come to life was really cool.
So were you assigned to Bud Light, the brand, or could you work with McUltra? Could you work with all the different brands? How'd that work?
Yeah, so all the professional team or the leagues, right? So obviously MLB was Budweiser, NFL was Bud Light, NHL, I believe, was Bud Light as well. And who am I missing? NBA was, I think, Budweiser, but then was slowly transitioning to McUltra. So when you were doing deals with a lot of those teams, MLB team, you were really working with the Budweiser brand team on the assets they wanted at the stadium or with the team, right? So it was Budweiser, it was Bud Light, so you would always kind of work with those brand teams on the assets they wanted. So it was really league specific league specific for the brand that you're dealing with.
If you can discuss it, what goes into, you mentioned the different brands with the different leagues, what goes into that decision on the brewery's part? Is it just looking at the demographics of their fan base? Because it's interesting that which goes with which league.
Yeah, it really does come down to, kind of the brand that AB wants to push based on the demographics of that league, right? And obviously, so a lot of it would go into that and pulling the, what it is that we're trying to accomplish. A lot of it, came down to obviously the brand team wanting to have that specific league and wanting specific assets, whether it was with that team or that league in general. So it obviously a lot came down to what they wanted to do and wanted to accomplish at that time. And it wouldn't be, there'd be times where, you're in the middle of an agreement and they would want to switch brands, which became really, really difficult. But you would, I'm trying to remember which league it was or what we had to do. It might've been the NHL. But during the middle of like a contract agreement, they want to switch brands, which means everything had to go over to like Bud Light, right? And that had everything from the league to everything inside the stadium. So you might have a branded Budweiser area in that, stadium that now has to be transferred over to Bud Light. And it became a lot, but it was a lot of fun to kind of learn that process and go through it.
Very interesting. Great stuff. We'll have more with Declan after the break, but you're listening to the Business of Sports, Playmakers Beyond the Competition on the Lou Information Station, live and on demand 24/7 at louinfo.com. We are back with Declan O'Neill from the race car world. Declan, talk about the move to Gateway and back in 2013, 2014, what went into your decision and kind of what you went there to do.
Yeah. So back in 2015 was kind of transitioning from AB, again, kind of dealt a little bit with the racing world when I was with Budweiser or AB. During that time, our owner, Curtis Francois, so the racetrack actually closed down completely in 2010. And he tells a story all the time. He came here, I think in 2011, and it was days away from, really just being sold for scraps and being trashed and no longer existing. And he took a chance on it and, ended up buying the facility. As kind of started, resurrecting it from then. And, for him, it was a big community play. And that's kind of, what we focus on here. But for him, he knew that if the racetrack went away, there would never be another one in the area or in the region. It would be kind of a big problem for the community. So I bought it 2012. I got connected to him, through the racing world, through contacts. Again, at that time, wanted to stay in St. Louis. I loved it here. My family loves it here. And I saw an opportunity when meeting with Curtis and driving around the facility of, kind of another facility that we could help, really kind of build back from the ground up and lots of vision of what we wanted to do and accomplish. And, I've been here for 10 years. When I started, I think had a NASCAR truck race, maybe at that time, and like an NHRA drag race. And that was really about it. And, now today we are, running about 300 event days a year. We're the only racetrack in the entire United States that has a NASCAR Cup race, that has an IndyCar race, that has an NHRA Midwest National event, that, runs Formula Drift, that, does all the great things that we do. And, we started with 150 acres. We're now up to over 1,000 acres. We own the golf course next door, Gateway National, and really just keep expanding, keep building it. But it's been a really, really fun opportunity. It's been a great experience. For us, we're one of the few, what we call independent racetracks. We're not owned by a big corporation or anything like that. Curtis is right down the hallway, and we're quick, we're nimble, we're a lot of fun. So it's a great place to be. So
Dak, let's talk about that. I think the racetrack started back in the late 90s, and we all, I was with another organization at the time, but we kind of saw it. I was in golf at the time. And, but, seeing that racetrack come out of the ground and seeing it happen and seeing the cart, you had some barriers that weren't your fault. I mean, the cart organization had their issues, and you were kind of dependent upon, the track was dependent upon that. But you had a reputation where a lot of stops and starts, and is this really going to happen? With Curtis Francois, a local guy for that matter. I think he actually was from Kirkwood. To talk about getting that reputation and that brand, risen from where it was. How'd you guys do that?
Yeah, it was really eye-opening when I got here. You're trying to bring back a track that had some negative history, with the track, coming up back in the kart days, and the goal at that time too, when they built the track, I think it was 94, with a promise that, hey, NASCAR would come here, and it never did, right? And that was kind of the beginning of the end right there. But being here when I started here, I remember, getting on the phone, calling partners, and they're like, where are you at? Wait, that racetrack is back open? Like, what are you guys doing there, type of thing. It was, you had to continually tell the story over and over about what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, trying to get people, sponsors from the St. Louis side to come across the bridge and come see this track and what we got going on and stuff like that. It was definitely a challenge. It was kind of eye-opening, sometimes just kind of like, man, is this going to happen? Like, can we really do this and pull this off and build these events back up? And, even to the point of when we were courting, when we were trying to get IndyCar to come here, kind of the same thing. Like, a lot of the drivers that were raced here in the past, like, didn't want to come back. They were scared the track was going to pull up again. IndyCar was just like, we don't think you guys can do it. You're a small little racetrack. We just don't think you're going to have the support. And we just kept pushing. And we had drivers, come out here and test, and they started liking it. We had a meeting here with IndyCar and showed them all the sponsor support we could bring in, and, all the kind of the fan base that is in the Midwest from a racing standpoint. And got them to sign on. And that first event in 2017 was awesome. It was electric. Fans loved it. Obviously, the drivers loved it. And from there, it's been one of the best oval track races that they have on circuit. And that really kind of opened up NASCAR's eyes. I remember NASCAR drivers at that time tweeting and putting out messages like, man, we need to go race there. And so that was our next step, is courting NASCAR and getting those guys to believe in us. And it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the venues that you're up against, right? The Talladegas and the Bristols, and I'm not a big race car guy, but those are, even Indy, the size of those venues is monstrous. And I don't know the capacity, but I don't think they are that big. How did you convince Indy and IndyCar and NASCAR to kind of come to your track where the capacities weren't as big?
Yeah, capacity wasn't really that big of a focus for us. Those tracks, massive, put on great events, but every track and every region kind of has, their own thing that they focus on. We're, from a seating standpoint, we're over 50,000. For us, it was, making sure it was sold out crowd, it was packed, a lot of energy, a lot of entertainment, all the stuff that, when you put on an event, we didn't want to put on just a race. We wanted to put on an event, a spectacle. We had music, we had entertainment, we had, our fireballs in the background going off and stuff like that. So when people left here, we wanted to make sure they had a great time, regardless if there was a race going on or not. But, we had to prove to NASCAR, to IndyCar, one, that we could have packed grandstands, right? We were going to do everything we could to make sure the grandstands were full. And that we also had a lot of, support from the community, support from the sponsors in St. Louis. And we pulled that off, and it was great. And, for us though, it's a challenge now. It's since it's been such a success, we got to continue to deliver that every year. And we got to try to think how we're going to make this event bigger and better than it was last year. Some of these races, no offense, but you go watch them and there's nothing else going on. People show up, there's a race, and that's it. And the stands might be half full. So, we wanted to prove that, hey, this is a great venue. This is a great fan base. But when you come here, be ready for a party. So
I was gonna ask about that. You have everything. You have the high of pulling off a great event, and if it's an annual event, that the work starts on the next one the next day.
That is 100% accurate. I remember, obviously, we get awarded with the NASCAR Cup race in 2022. And, we end up, hey, we're going to do all this great stuff with it. We're going to have a big music festival tied in with it. We're going to, have all this entertainment going on around the event. It was such a success. And I remember, we're all kind of sitting around the next day just going, oh man, we got to do that again next year. And how are we going to pull this off? What are we going to do to make that one, the next one, bigger and better? And it's a lot of fun because, we have a really good staff here, small staff, but we're always challenging each other on, all right, we can't just, be fine with what we just did. We gotta take it to the next level. So, and it starts, the day after each event ends, right? So you have 365 plus days to make the next one bigger and better. And, we're coming up on 21 days for our next big cup race. And, we got a lot of stuff planned for it. It's going to be another great event with a big festival and stuff like that. But it's, we're not one of those that just sits back and just says, all right, that was good enough. Let's just stay there. It's like, all right, how do we bring it up again and make it better?
Hey, Dak, that's, if you could touch on this, just the financial modeling of, like, when you host an LPGA event, you got to pay the purse and you got to pay the expenses, and there's a risk model there, right? So I can see a lot of tracks going, hey, we'll just make sure we hit our, I don't know what the numbers are, what you call them, a guarantee or whatever it is to the rights holder, but that there's maybe a reason they don't do all the extra cost and effort to all those things. But what does that financial model look like for a NASCAR or IndyCar race? How does that come together? And share with the audience a little bit of details of how you kind of, what are the factors that you use to meet those demands, those financial demands?
Yeah, for sure. It's unique with the racing as far as how we do it. Basically, once you're given the green light that, hey, NASCAR, IndyCar will allow, them to come to your facility, you're basically buying the event, right? So, you're paying a sanction fee, to NASCAR, IndyCar. And it's basically your event then, right? So we're responsible for, then we handle all the sponsorships, all the hospitality, all the suites, obviously all the ticket sales. And there's TV money obviously that comes into play with it as well on that side that helps. But from our standpoint, it's a big risk because it's the fee, you got to make sure that's covered. All the expenses obviously that go into running a major event like that is really high. So for us, we got to pull it back and say, all right, here's our ticket goal, here's our ATP of what we want to accomplish on the ticket side. Here's what we got to, push suites for and how many we have to sell. And then obviously, from my side that I really focus on is the sponsorship piece, right? So entitlement partners have to come into play for events like that, and supporting partners and stuff all around the facility. So it is, you got to hit certain goals to make sure, obviously, one, you're breaking even, becoming profitable. But it's a risk factor for sure. But the cool thing with that, and it just kind of goes back to a previous question of like how we can kind of do things differently when we own those events. From my side, when I'm building entitlement packages and working with partners and stuff like that, I have a lot of cool experiences that I can offer to companies that they can't get elsewhere, right? So Chris, you want to wave the green flag to start the race? I can make that happen, right?
Yeah.
You want to?
I was going to recommend that.
Yeah. You want to jump in the pace car and lead the drivers off. We can make that stuff happen. So when we own these events, there's a lot of cool things that we can put together for partners. That they can't just go get anywhere else. So it's a lot of fun.
So, all right. So you just mentioned a lot of things. There's so many pieces that come into this. It's a business, right? And so people think sports, it's fun. You go to the game and you watch the race, or you watch the hockey player, or whatever you're going to watch. But there are so many moving pieces to this. There are so many people that kind of make this happen. Give us a sense for what that staff looks like at World Wide Technology at the Raceway, and give us a sense for how many people there are, and where they come from, and what kind of just a real. I know we only have 5-10 minutes, but what does that staff look like at World Wide Technology Raceway?
Yeah, so we're pretty small staff, honestly. We probably have down here in the main office here, 20, 22 from a full-time standpoint. Obviously, our maintenance crew is decent size because it's such a big facility to upkeep and stuff like that. But you got 22 people here that are grinding every day, and we're a small team, so we work really well together, right? So kind of culture here is, one, we want to have fun. Sports is fun. What we do is a lot of fun. Let's never forget that. But two, like, everybody's a team player. Everybody jumps in. Everybody helps out. It's nothing to see myself and our GM and our VP of marketing, go hop in a golf cart, late at night and maybe pack a cooler of beer and go hang some signs around the facility or do whatever we got to do. But everybody jumps in and helps out, right? But come on NASCAR weekend, we obviously need a lot of extra help, and it's a lot of outsourcing, a lot of staffing, working with volunteer groups, a lot of security groups and stuff like that. So, our staff of 20 on a NASCAR race day could be, close to pushing, 700, 800 people around the facility and property. And that's everybody from, parking to managing gates to, security and overseeing all of our hospitality and stuff like that. So we do rely a lot on outside help and outside resources, but, it's the kind of the main staff here, the 20 plus that, is leading the charge all the way up until, it's game day on Friday when we open gates for NASCAR weekend. And then we rely on a lot of outside help to help us put on the show.
Love it. That's a big
talk about just kind of preview for fans what to expect in a few weeks at NASCAR weekend.
Yeah, pretty exciting. It's funny. I actually yesterday we just announced our two entitlement partners for our Xfinity race. So NASCAR weekend, September 5th, 6th, and 7th. We're actually going to host a fan fest as well downtown at Ballpark Village on September 4th with some drivers and show cars and stuff like that. But so we announced yesterday our entitlement partners for our Xfinity race, which is the first time in 15 years that Xfinity will be running here at the track. So people are really excited about that. New Way, a local company, concrete industries that they're involved in, and then Blues Hog Barbecue, which is from Washington, Missouri. Both local companies jumped on as the entitlement, which has been great for that. And then for our Cup race, Enjoy Illinois has been our entitlement partner. So Illinois Office of Tourism has been the entitlement partner for that. So that's been very successful in pushing, obviously, tourism and stuff around the state of Illinois. But going to be a great weekend, Xfinity. So it's the last race before the playoffs. So it's going to be a lot of drama. It's going to be under the lights on Saturday night on the CW. And then we're going to be now the second race of the playoffs for NASCAR Cup Series, so which is obviously another huge accomplishment for us to get a playoff race. But again, a lot of stuff, a lot of drama goes into that. A lot of drivers obviously vying to win here the last couple races, so they get the playoffs. Going got a big music festival planned with it that weekend. We announced Ella Langley and John Party are kind of our headliners on Sunday. Bill Murray is going to be our grand marshal, and also he has a band. If you did not know that, he's going to be playing on Sunday as well with his band. Adam Wainwright's coming back. He's going to play as well one of the nights. A lot of different entertainment, a lot of celebrities we're working with that's going to be here. But it's going to be a good 3 days of fun, music, racing, just a lot of things going on. So we're very excited about it.
So go ahead,
Jen. Go ahead, Chris.
As we close it out, I mean, just how you got from where you are to where you are today. What are 1, 2, 3 things that you could suggest to that 21, 22-year-old college student, or just the person that wants to get into the business? What helped you get to where you are now?
Yeah, for me, it was, obviously loving sports and having that passion. But, what I tell those looking to get into the sports industry, it's tough. I mean, you want to start somewhere. You're going to be grinding, whether it's running events, whether it's, dialing for dollars, calling ticket sales, stuff like that. It's, you got to want to get through that grind. And that grind is, when you're starting off, is really kind of what helps build, to your future of what you're going to do. So, it's a grind, but it's a lot of fun. You just got to remember that, a lot of people want to work in sports. Not everybody gets to, and, when you do, it's a lot of fun of what you're doing, because you're helping create, memories for fans that are coming here and putting on really good events and doing things for the community and stuff like that. But, I just tell them, hey, be ready for the grind. And also the other thing is, you got to challenge yourself. Don't be scared to challenge. Don't be scared to take the next step. Don't be scared to make mistakes. You're going to learn the most from the mistakes that you make, but, just embrace the grind and enjoy the challenge, and, just have fun with it when you get there.
So much work goes into those big events. Fans show up, they just have a great time. It just happens. You know how much work goes into it. Are you able to enjoy the event once it comes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something, we also tell our staff and like our interns or those, young kids that are helping us is, enjoy the chaos that is about to come. On race week, we sit them down and we say, look, enjoy the chaos of this week. It's going to be a lot of stuff thrown at you. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming, but make sure you do enjoy this event. And so what we try to do for every start of the race, when green flag waves and the cars are coming by the start finish line for the first time all packed together, is try to watch that moment, right? So we tell the interns, so if you can, you tell our staff, if you can, watch that moment wherever you're at in the track. Try to go see that, because that's really cool, and that helps you kind of, man, we did all this, and the event started. Fans are going crazy. It's a fun time, but we try to make sure we enjoy the event that we're there putting on as much as we can. Knowing obviously once the cars go by, and it's like, all right, back to work, let's go. Like, gotta go here, gotta go there, type of thing. But we try to make sure everybody enjoys it for a few minutes for sure.
And you definitely deserve to enjoy it. I've enjoyed this. Chris and I both enjoyed it. Declan, thanks for joining us. Everybody's looking forward to that big weekend, NASCAR weekend in a couple weeks. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Jack.
no, I appreciate the time. Chris, always good catching up and great meeting you. And anytime. Happy to talk.
Really enjoyed that conversation with Declan O'Neill of World Wide Technology and Gateway Racing. Chris, it's a pretty special event, NASCAR coming up in a few weeks. You've been there, I know.
Yeah, it's a great event, and it's really hats off to Curtis Francois and Chris Blair and Declan, and I can't name all the people that are out there, but it's really cool to hear Declan talk about just to his staff and the interns, is to take a step back and appreciate what you did. It's not just that one day, where the green flag goes up and it's it. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of hours of planning, tons of people that make it happen. The tip of the spear is those 20 or so people that are full time. But man, when come event day, that 20 people explodes to a lot more. I don't know what the number is, but it's a lot more. And for those kids, and I remember when I was first starting out, that just getting into the business, and those are long days. I mean, those you're getting there early before the sun rises, and you're not leaving till the sun goes down, and those are long days. And those outdoor events are a challenge as well. You just kind of don't know what you're going to get sometimes. We kind of referenced the College Cup with Declan. We had that. It was December 1st and December 3rd with the event dates back in 2006. And on Wednesday night, before the teams took the field to practice the next day, it was 65 degrees and beautiful, and the stencils were down, and it was a gorgeous setting at St. Louis University, and they've just that awesome field they've got with the 6,000 bleach, just a beautiful setting. And then the ice came the next day, and that caused all kinds of problems. So outdoor events are a challenge, and for us to overcome, we actually had to postpone day one. Usually that's a Friday, Sunday event. We had to postpone it, and then go to our relations with the Rams at the time. The Rams they were out of town that week. So they let us put the 4 soccer teams that were participating in the event inside the dome to practice. That was the only place you could practice at.
Wow.
So we were able to use that field thanks to Jack Krogan, who used to operate the dome. So Jack was very, very nice to the NCAA and to us at the Sports Commission to make that go. But it just goes to show. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen. It could be hot, it could be cold, and the weather, you could do whatever it's going to do. So it's you got to step back and appreciate it, and they do. And especially when the checker flag goes up on Sunday night for the NASCAR race. They are playing the next day, and they have 300 events. We even talk about that. I mean, I don't know if they're doing weddings. I know we just saw at Bristol where they played that baseball game. But I'm sure they're doing concerts, and they're doing, I don't know, maybe 5Ks, 10Ks around the track. I don't know what they're doing, but there's always a lot going on. That's a great asset for the St. Louis community to have, for Curtis to kind of resurrect that track and to bring it back. And to make it what it is today, and to showcase St. Louis, the region. I know it's across the river, but we're one big region here in St. Louis, and it's really cool to see that race, get the eyeballs that it gets on Saturday night and on Sunday night, and as well as all the other events that they do.
And speaking of events and that weekend, that is a big one, but that is a weekend of big events in St. Louis. You've got the Stiefel Charity Classic, the Senior PGA event out at Norwood. You got the Gateway Cup. The Cardinals are in town with the Giants. If you're a sports fan and you're not at one of those places, you need to find one of them, I think.
Yeah, the Gateway Cup is an amazing event. It's not as well known, but it's an international cycling event. And Mike Weiss, who we'll have on the show here pretty soon, heads that up. And, I met Mike back in the Tour of Missouri days when we had that race that started in Kansas City. I think we did it for 2 years and it ended in St. Louis. But Mike does an incredible job. I mean, he has a full-time job. He owns a cycling shop, cycling store. But in addition to that, he runs these incredible races. And that Gateway Cup is one that you surely don't want to miss. Look for that one on your calendar as well.
It's going to be a fun weekend. Chris, this is always fun. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week. You can catch us live Sunday mornings at 10 or find us on YouTube or any major podcast outlet. Just search Business of Sports, Playmakers Beyond the Competition, or you can always find us at luinfo.com. Thanks to Dave Green, to Grant Salzman, and KLIS for letting us do the show, and we'll see you next week.